in for that for the last 15 years too, or 15 months. Just seems like 15 years. But no, man, I mean, it's a beautiful spring day. Overton windows, we don't even have the window. We don't even have windows. You can just climb right through, let all the sunshine and air in. Why? And why now? Rob, I'll start with you.
It's because Donald Trump's no longer the president, and they don't need to downplay what he says in order so that he won't be the president. I mean, it's completely obvious about that, right? I mean, I go back to this PolitiFact fact check. I don't know if you've seen this. PolitiFact earlier this week had to remove a fact check and archive it that they did in September of 2020 when Tucker Carlson on Fox News had on I think it was a Chinese scientist that said that she thought that it came from the Wuhan lab. And they went through a whole litany of reasons why, but they're closing two sentences, right? Their closing paragraph shows you all you need to know. Now tell me if these two sentences, Steve, sound like something that came from a non-biased fact check that was only presenting the facts.
Are you ready for this fight?
The claim is inaccurate and ridiculous.
I don't know where we'd be without you, man.
We rate it pants on fire. And ridiculous. That's an editorial.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a fact check. That's PolitiFact, who's really PolitOpinion. It's just a fact check. But I go back to, like we said earlier, you know, it's March of 2020, and this is starting to come out, and the inquisitive mind that I am goes on the internet and, you know, just, I wonder if, like, China has one of those bio labs that does, like, weird research that might even be like a bioweapon thing, because this COVID seems really weird that it's so virulent and it comes out so fast. So let me just type in the words Wuhan Biolab. So I type in the words Wuhan Biolab, and I get that Nature article that I told you that's been memory hold, right? You can see it in March of 2020. There's so much other stuff on the Wuhan lab that to find things, that's one of the problems with Google, is to find things from prior gets to be more difficult. But I go back to that article, and I believe it was in Nature. It might have been in one of the other science magazines. But they were talking about the Wuhan Biolab, and like you said, they've got a bioweapons dude that's running the Wuhan Biolab. I remember up in New England, in the Boston area, they were trying to put in an anti-terrorism bioweapons research facility to make sure that they could study, you know, really bad pathogens that the terrorists might be using. And people in Boston were like absolutely crazed that they wanted to put in something of that level right in downtown Boston. Yet we have something just as similar in Wuhan. It's Occam's razor, Steve. I mean, this entire time it has been, you have a super lab that was studying coronaviruses, that was studying gain of function, which isn't, you know, people are, when you say that quote unquote it was man-made, it's not that they were taking coronaviruses and churning the DNA. No, what they do is they speed up natural selection to see if they can get one of these coronaviruses to more easily go into mammals that aren't just bats, so that we can quote unquote study how to fight it if it does. So you're taking the strains that can more easily attack humans. That's what they were doing. The first cases, which we now know weren't the first cases, because we have, 3 scientists at least that were hospitalized from the lab in November of 2019. The first cases happened mere blocks from the laboratory, but they want us to believe that, you know, Wow Z was really hungry for some bat soup, and he got coronavirus because the bat was a little undercooked. And that's how it happened. That's what they wanted us to believe, that it was these unsanitary wet markets when they were doing the coronavirus research, 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away? It's absolutely insane. I mean, the only question in my mind was it an accidental release?
Right.
Or was it a purposeful
Well, Rob, our
question.
NIH gave $7 million to that institute. We document this in Fauci and Bargan. Our NIH, that's the umbrella organization that Fauci's department reports to. That's Francis Collins' bureaucracy. National Institute of Health gave $7.3 million to the Wuhan Institute of Virology to study what's called spillover potential. You were sort of alluding to that in what you were describing, but spillover potential is, what does it take for a virus to leap from animal to animal to animal to human, all right? what conditions, behavior modifications, or as you put it, speeding up the natural selection process, needs to happen for that to occur. That is the virology equivalent of, and people I don't think understand, Wuhan is a heavily populated area. This is not Bikini Island, folks. This is the equivalent of taking a community like a Des Moines. Not a top 5 city in the country, but heavily populated area, and deciding we're going to do nuclear experimentation on a remote part of a densely populated area of Des Moines. That's essentially what they were doing here, with the intention of specifically making note of what would Spillover Potential's goal is to find out exactly what are the conditions that cause the virus to leap into humans. That's what they were studying there. They were studying that there. That was the point of the gain-of-function research. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would like to contend with one thing. I do think the Overton window has maybe flipped around instead of shifted or expanded. Breaking this morning, I don't know if you guys saw this, Facebook is now banning anyone who says the virus wasn't created at the Wuhan lab. It's Babylon Bee. But would you be surprised? Would you be surprised?
No, I would not.
No, that's the bigger story here, I believe, other than the lab. I think that went way down the river in just 1 week. We're way down the river on the lab origin. The bigger story is what we talked about yesterday, and the dangerous trend that's being set by Facebook and big government. And it's not just that this is mainstream in media. Facebook cited experts. I wonder where those experts came. And it's really curious as well. It started to go into mainstream.
Same experts that told them to switch their mask.
The lab leak. The lab leak theory has been kind of gaining traction mainstream.
Hey, like I said,
What happened earlier this week?
Light 'em up.
Fauci. He said,
time
you know
to
what,
find
I'm
the
not
enemy
convinced.
and kill 'em.
I'm not convinced. And then politicians started talking about it and asking questions about it. And then it was like, okay, yeah, you all plebes, yeah, you can talk about it. That's the bigger story here. That's the bigger story. And they're going to continue to do this until we actually figure out whether these big tech platforms are platforms or publishers. Or one of the myriad, breaking them up a la Josh Hawley. I'm not sure which one we're headed for, but we're going to continue to have this disconnect until something changes in the nature and the foundation of big tech in our country. Because this is how we disseminate. This is how we disseminate information. This is how we get it now. And a great example, I'll wrap it up. A great example is, do you go to the newspaper anymore to get last night's sports scores? No, you don't. No, you never have. In fact, I don't even know, do newspapers even carry a score section anymore? Maybe they do. I
don't remember the last time I looked at a newspaper. I don't know what's in them. I don't know what's in them.
So that's the bigger story in this within this story. It's not the lab necessarily, although that's a big story. It's what's happening with big tech and the trend that's being set.
Todd, I think though we got to go a step further. I agree with Rob on why they feel politically emboldened to go to this place now, but the timing of now, right, as opposed to why not a month from now, a month ago, 6 weeks from now, right? Why right now? And I've used this term retcon. For people that don't know pop culture, what retcon means essentially is, for example, if you watched the opening scene of the last Star Wars movie, that's a retcon, right? They're trying to reverse engineer a plot hole that they messed up because of what happened in The Last Jedi, when Rey was told you're a nobody, when it was clear in the first Star Wars sequel she was being set up to be a somebody. And then they make it very clear you're an absolute nobody, there's no point to this, it's nihilistic storytelling, it's not going anywhere, right? Well, then J.J. Abrams has to correct that error, and so the opening scene, right, when Kylo Ren goes to the planet where they're doing the cloning, they're setting up a retcon. They're going to tell you later that Rey's basically a clone of Palpatine. All right, this is the correction of a plot hole in order to fix the story moving forward. That's what I believe is going on here. There must be a Ryan Johnson. There must be a go. Gavin Newsom needs a reason to tell you why you shouldn't get rid of him in his recall. Gretchen Whitmer needs a reason to tell you why you shouldn't vote her out next year. I was just following Anthony Fauci's advice. I just just did what he told me to do. And then when it was clear that the data did not line up with what he told us, didn't we reopen everything? Weren't we totally reopening California and Michigan become Texas today? Is that our goal?
Enemies hit.
I think you're watching, I think, the setting up of Anthony Fauci to someday, very shortly here, meet the underside of a bus. That he's going to get the blame for this, is what I believe is happening.
I don't think it's consciously trying to set him up, but everything else you said before that is kind of how I was tracking. There's been so many pieces manipulated over the last year plus to keep our entire country like King Theoden when he was cursed, just sitting there next to Wormtongue whispering in his ear. And we I gotta beat him! Hey, Charlie, Bill is down! Answers for many people, and that's the magical thinking of vaccines. People are still grateful it's here by a large part, but the amount of doublespeak that happened when the great savior vaccine came along, but you still got a triple mask, and you still got to do this inside, and you still got to do this outside, and that snapped like a lot of the veil was just torn. How is this thing that is been promised as the thing we have to wait for, and it came sooner than any of us hoped? There are so many questions and so many oddities, and none of this math makes any sense. And that finally broke through to a lot of different areas. Schools, Wuhan, a lot of areas. Whether it is sustainable, I have no idea. But I believe things got so stupid surrounding vaccines that is ultimately now why the dam has burst in other areas. And yes, you may be right, Steve. Fauci may pay the price for that, but I don't think consciously. Just look at what we learned with Cuomo. Thought he was going to be gone. He's not gone.
Not gone yet.
No?
It's not yet.
But we thought he'd be gone by now.
There's several probes into him.
Yeah.
Okay. Exit question. If the odds China will be held meaningfully accountable for this tragedy by our government or an Eagle song, which Eagle song would it be? A, Take It to the Limit. B, Lion Eyes. C, Already Gone. Aaron.
Lion Eyes.
Already gone. But that means like it's not going to happen right yet. Already gone.
Rob. Could we all be wrong about that?
Oh, God, please.
Meaning that, is it possible? The sports handicapper in me just starts getting worried when all the pro handicappers are on one side of the game, right? I've just seen how many times that when they all agree, they tend to be wrong, okay? Because I agree with you, which has me scared. I agree with all of you, right? Could this be a Nixon goes to China moment here? The guy who's the instrument of the Chi-Coms, his administration realized they got to do something. Okay, I mean, they're out there saying this week that they're not ruling out it was purposefully leaked. They're saying that from the White House now. Is there? I think we should at least entertain the possibility that that could be part of this retcon. Even though I would tend to agree with you if I had to bet. We'll come back. More of the Day Group here in a moment. Hey, what's better than 50% of your first 2 months? Or 50% off your first 2 months with our friends at Patriot Mobile. How about winning mobile phone service for life? That's right. When you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, that's patriotmobile.com/Steve, you can learn how to get 50% off your first 2 months of service and enter to win mobile phone service for life, plus a free Patriot starter kit when you join America's only conservative mobile phone company. Patriot Mobile has the broadest nationwide coverage and uses the same towers as all the other major carriers, so you get the same great service. Plus, they have plans to fit any budget, including multi-line discounts. But most importantly, on top of the service and all the other things they offer, the values. They don't donate any of your money to support the causes that are trying to end your way of life. Instead, they support the same values that you do. So switching is easy. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Steve, or you can call their U.S.-based customer service team at 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOTS. By the way, veterans and first responders, you save even more, all right, if you make the switch today. So, again, get the discount and a chance to win mobile phone service for life at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Steve. That's PatriotMobile.com/Steve. let's get to issue 3. He's running. Or is he?
We have no possible way to determine or even know which signs to look for to see whether or not Donald Trump will run again in 2024. Trying to determine Donald Trump's next move or moves down the road is like betting on a MAC football team against the spread. Don't bet on them, don't bet against them. So instead, what I'm going to do for this intro is do the online Magic 8-ball 5 times and see which result we get back the most. All right, so we begin. Is Donald Trump running again? Magic 8-ball says most likely, so that's 1 for most likely. We'll do it again. Is Donald Trump running again? And we get the same answer. Let's do something different here. Trump 2024. My reply is no, so that's 2 for and 1 against. Let's do another one. El Trumpo, El 240. Sources say no, so that's 2 for and 2 against. Let's do one more here. This is going to determine it. Will Donald Trump run again? Reply hazy, try again. So not even the Magic 8-ball knows.
So here's why I wanted to put this subject. It's a clever way to address the mercurial nature of the former president of the United States. I wanted this on the rundown this week. I'm not going to mention the name on the air, okay? Because I don't think I can. But a major figure in Trump world, and he's a. You guys know who I'm talking about. You two do, because I told you before the show, right?
Yep.
This you'll verify. This is a major figure in Trump world, right? Okay. A major figure in Trump world told a couple of different well-placed little birdies of mine that Trump isn't going to run again, and they're going to do a very heavy show of force that he is, in order to help launch his new social media platform, and then the PAC and other things he's going to do to maintain his level of influence in the Republican Party. Okay? However, in recent days, one of those major figures has been in at least one major media outlet saying that Trump is definitely running again. So, I don't think that he lied. I think potentially something has changed. And that's why I decided to put this in the rundown, because we hadn't really discussed it in a long time. But I noticed that this individual who had been telling people I trust not happening is now going on the record in public that he believes that it will. So, Rob, first question to you. True or false? The odds are greater that Trump runs again in 2024 than not.
Set to take out the target. Yeah.
I think not. It was interesting listening to you.
So you said false.
Talk about what,
okay.
False.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think he runs. But listening to what you said that this well-placed source that's big in Trump world said that they're going to make it look like he's running so that they can launch the Trump social media and other outlets and launch the PAC. And then you said, is it the same person that you said publicly said that he's going to run? So those two stories seem to jive with me.
Okay.
That publicly they're going to make it
So you
look
think
like
it's
running.
you think that is part of the public play. You didn't view that as some kind of a sea change. Okay. I can see you could read that too.
The same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. True or false, same to you. So Rob's the first false. Todd, same to you. True or false? The odds are greater Trump runs again in 2024 than not.
False. They're greater now than they were a month ago, 2 months ago. Trump is coming out of the fog of losing this country.
So you're a true then, because Rob was a false. The odds are greater that Trump runs again than he doesn't. You're a true.
No, I don't. I don't think he's going to.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I just said they're greater now than they were a month ago, but I don't think he's like 55%. I just think they're moving in that direction. But, you know, the sustainability of Trump resolve is highly problematic. And the simple fact of the matter is none of this really matters until after we have a gubernatorial election in Florida, because then it's going to get real. And if Donald Trump wants to run, he's going to have to kill Ron DeSantis. And that's going to be a different ballgame than killing Ted Cruz, because for all of Ted Cruz's gifts, as you laid out earlier this week, he did not have all of the name ID. He was not liked in the party in many respects. There was no cult of personality at a populist level around him. DeSantis has all of that, and Trump would have to try to nuke that.
You're assuming that DeSantis would challenge him.
Well, there's going to be a sizable portion of the Trump base is also in love with Ron DeSantis.
That's true.
And you did the polling on that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, and they were what, 3-1 if memory serves. So that's different than Ted Cruz.
Aaron, what do you think?
So I don't recall the piece about making a show of force, a la what Rob just said, because that changes my answer. This fits in with the narrative that the source is out there now, saying it's apparently two different things, but I really think they're the same thing. So I'm at a false right now. I don't think the odds are greater that he will run again than he will not. So and I agree with Todd as well. Okay, Ted Cruz, the filibuster all night, reading Green Eggs and Ham is not the same thing. It's great. Calling Mitch McConnell a liar to to his face.
Yeah,
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's not the same as you get to breathe the free air. Welcome to Florida. Always sunny and 75 or 105 in the summer, and you can actually be free here and you live your life. We're not going to take your life. That's a little bit different ballgame. So going after him is going to be a lot different than going after Cruz.
Rob, let me rephrase the question another way. Do you really believe a man with, shall we say, a robust ego? Fair? That fair?
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay. Safety dance.
Do you really believe a man with such a robust ego is going to voluntarily walk away from the largest spotlight? If we're the lone intelligent life in the universe, at least on this planet, at least it is on this planet. And again, if we're the only intelligent life in the universe, a guy with a robust ego, if he's able-bodied, is going to pass on that. Do you really believe that, Rob?
I kind of do. I think that we saw what happened to his family's finances, how his businesses took a hit when he was the president, and I think that's how he scores himself more than anything else in the world. And I think he's going to spend the remaining days of his life. He's what, 75
He'd
now?
be 78.
Yeah.
When the 2020 in 2024.
So he's 76. He's 75 now.
Yeah.
I just think that he is going to spend the rest of his days trying to reshore up that with what he lost during the presidency. I mean, everybody said that when he was president, it enriched his family. He's like the anti-Bidens or the anti-normal thing. When you go to Washington, you end up coming out richer than when you went in. His businesses and his family's businesses suffered when he was the president. I think that's how he measures himself beyond anything else, and I think that's what he's going to spend his last days doing.
All right,
however long those may be.
All right, exit question then. Do you personally want Trump to run again, or looking at the potential GOP field, in his place, would you prefer someone new? And I'm asking this exit question because I think the audience deserves to know what the particular biases we each have on this topic are, given and factor that into our analysis. Fair?
No. Yeah.
Okay. So Todd, how would you answer that question?
I want somebody new.
Okay. Aaron?
Somebody new.
Rob?
Somebody new, Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody new.
Subliminal land. Ron DeSantis.
There was a very Kevin Nealon aspect to that, yes?
You were all thinking it. I just wanted to say it out loud.
Okay. All right. All right. So do we have just the video or we have an intro here? Just the video?
Just
Aaron?
the video.
All right. So issue 4 is say you're Brooks Koepka. Who is your Bryson DeChambeau? I don't know if you guys saw this video. This is from. We'll let you watch it.
Brooks, what were you able to do well and put up that nice number?
Just ball struck my way around this place. I don't think any guys are going to win. It's very tough. I don't know what other guys have said, or I just just felt it difficult to read. You know, sometimes I lost my train of thought. Yeah, here.
So 2021 has found its meme. All right, that's going to replace the meme from 2018 where the guy's walking down the street with his girlfriend and he sees the other chick that he's more interested in and he looks over her shoulder, right? That's been like the champion meme of the last 2-3 years. I think that the Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka eye roll is the new up-and-comer in memedom. So, say you're Brooks Koepka here in that video, the PGA champion. Who's your Bryson DeChambeau, Todd?
It's so obvious. Do I even need to say it?
Yes.
David French.
Yes. Dude, you might be his, honestly.
I hope so. Oh,
there have
please.
been times I have wondered how many Twitter followers, you're up to over 6,000 or something now, I saw, right? If you hit 10K, do I, as your employer, have to deal with a restraining order from David French? I'm dead serious. I've wondered, what is the point in time where maybe I need to step in and give you the Jonah Hill gift? Hey, man, all right, I got some corporate responsibility now. You're going to cost me some legal fees if you keep this up.
That's what it's going to take.
All right, Rob, what about you?
Oh, I'd say Tater Stelter. Brian Stelter is probably just every time he opens his mouth, it's just so condescending. So I just know everything. It's just.
I get it, man. But the amount of energy we spend in our industry on a guy who has zero negative integer influence, brother. I mean, my Twitter feed every day is full of Stelter obsession. Why? How many people that went in and vote in the last election know who the hell Brian Stelter is? Do you think?
In fairness, though, Steve, David French is the Brian Stelter of Amanda Carpenter's.
Some days Aaron is mine, and then other days I'm like, I'm so proud of
love
you
that kid.
right now. I love that kid. That's right. Okay. All right. Aaron, yours.
Todd Erzin during Iowa-Wisconsin game week.
That's a very good. That's a good call. Yes.
The rest of the time, I look at Todd as David French looks at Drag Queen Story Hour.
Nice. All right, let's get to predictions. Aaron, go first.
I believe that there will be at least 1 or 2 attempts from football squads at major universities to organize against coerced vaccination. I'm looking at you, Rutgers.
Interesting. That will be an interesting fight as we get later into the summer. Todd, what do you think?
You actually took mine, both as it relates to sports and campuses in general. I retweeted, so there's pushback at Indiana University trying to mandate vaccinations across the board. There's pushback on that. So there's wisdom, I think, in our doubling up on this, Aaron. Again, the magical thinking of vaccines, that veil has been torn, and we are going to be investigating the consequences of that for at least the next year.
Rob, your prediction.
After this weekend, where more states are opening up, and you're going to see 135,000 people at the Indianapolis 500, and you're starting to see filled stadiums for basketball and NHL playoffs. Despite what we've seen in the state of Texas and other places where we've had full stadiums for 2 months now, you're going to see a collective loss of crap from the mainstream media and how many people are together in one place without masks, and how that's going to send us into another frenzy of coronavirus, and how we're going to undo all of the good that we've done in the past 2 months. You're going to see gobbles and gobbles and gobbles of that this weekend.
Locked on the CO.
On your go, Ghost Lady.
I don't know, man.
I'll stand down, Ghost Lady.
It's pretty clear. Someone, I don't know if David Axelrod, as an adult, made a call. Someone made a call at Democratic Party HQ and said, gas lines now too? Really? I mean, we're already going to lose 20, 30 seats next year just on momentum. You guys want to lose 70? Clearly they got a call over there, okay? Didn't we just do a whole thing about the Wuhan lab narrative is just being completely retconned in real time as we're speaking right here?
But then they proposed a $6 billion budget, so...
Well, that's the Democratic Party, and the Republicans would have proposed $4 trillion. I mean, that's
how
world
we do.
live. Yeah. My prediction is there's going to be more Iran-Hamas missile attacks, because I apologize for the redundancy. More of those missile attacks on Israel by the end of the summer, now that it has been shown that this is the lone successful path those people have back onto the world stage in an attempt to block further Middle East peace efforts. So I think we'll see another round of what we just ceased fired. You'll see another round of that at some point here this summer, because the message was sent. This is actually now how you get standing in the new world order post-2020 election.
Because that's just the Hamas party.
That's
they
what
look
they
at each
do.
other.
Yeah.
We forgot how we roll here.
Dude, I mean, there could be no COVID, and they would have proposed a $6 trillion budget. That's what they do. Okay? We're talking about Democrats, right?
Yeah, we're talking about Hamas, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
Rob, good to see you as always, man. We'll do it again sometime, all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. We'll come back. It'll be time for some Feedback Friday next in hour 2.
In the area.
And we're back with hour 2, live and on demand. I'm sorry. Oh, here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. We were just on this solemn occasion, remembering Harambe. Oh, our friends over at the Daily Wire just tweeted out a couple of buttes where Harambe is concerned. We just saw those before we came back on the air here, so I've got to get my composure back. Let us know. What you think? Have a good day at the zoo on your way out. Grab some merch.
Fine.
Oh my word! And in the picture, he's just sitting there holding court.
Yeah, I know.
These people just are standing around getting pearls of wisdom.
Hey, whatever they were getting from him in that moment was better than what we've got from Fauci and most of the other people.
That'll preach. There we go. Now I'm sober again. Thank you. That sobered me up real quick. Thank
Harambe
you.
and Bargain. That's the next book.
Oh,
all right. Sequel. Touchdown. This is why I'm here, folks.
Harambe and Bargain. Oh, let us know what you think about what we think. Steve at stevedeace.com is how you can email us. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWeGab, and Parler. Look for Steve Deace at all those places. Follow me on Twitter at Steve Deace Show, and you can get clips of the program at rumble.com/Steve Deace Show as well. If you're a podcast listener, thank you. Please hit the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review. If you've not done those two things yet for us, please consider doing so, because they do help grow the program, and that's why we want to thank all of you, the multitudes that have done those two things for us already. You know, we love to talk about Built Bar, and yet somewhere out there, someone has not yet taken us up on the offer of the greatest protein bar ever created. Now, I will tell you though, some smart ass sent me an email this morning wanting to know if my shilling for Built Bar would even include a canned spinach flavor. Now, I would not endorse a company. See, I don't accept your flawed binary choices. I would not endorse a company that has such very poor taste in product, that would even consider such a dilemma. Therefore, I don't have to worry about the day that the canned spinach flavor rolls off the assembly line at Built Bar. But I see what you were trying to do there. You were trying to corner me. But no, I sneak in the morning of the Kobayashi Maru and reprogram the simulation. I don't believe in no-win scenarios, all right? The correct answer actually is no. I'm not endorsing a company that would even create such a flavor, so I don't have to worry about it. All the other flavors, though, are phenomenal. All of them covered in real chocolate, including their brand new flavor, white chocolate covered birthday cake. I'm telling you, it is the best protein bar you have ever had. And it fits into any healthy lifestyle, low carb, low sugar, low cal. And did I mention they taste great too? Give it a shot right now. 15% off your next or first order when you go to BuiltBar.com. BUILT is the way it's spelled. BuiltBar.com, and use my last name, Deace, DEACE, my last name Deace, as the promo code over at BuiltBar.com to get 15% off. All right, let's get to some Feedback Friday. You guys ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right, let's react to some of your reactions to us. Let's begin with Daniel. He writes, employers like mine are adopting CDC's guidance for masks, which is essentially an honor system with two classes of people. It seems like my choice here is between being complicit with straight-up idolatry or lying by my words and actions. I think they are unlikely to request vaccine documentation from anyone. I'm Catholic, so you probably know the Bible better than me, right? I didn't say that, Todd. It was just here in his email, okay? I didn't say that.
It's true.
Anyway, unfortunately, I really wish I could just gang up on you Catholics, but that's probably true of a lot of the Sola Scriptura folks too. Aaron, you think that's probably pretty true of the Sola Scriptura folks too?
I don't know. I like spanking Catholics.
Let's just do that instead. One-sided fallacies, we love those.
Yeah.
In fact, how many of the Sola Scriptura folks actually know or ever heard the term Sola Scriptura? Let's stop now, because I'm going to go from laughing about Harambe memes to joining him in the afterlife, okay? I'm going to be cutting myself. Anyway.
I wonder how many of them think it's a Harry Potter spell.
Yeah, nice. Anyway, Daniel ends his note by asking, what moral obligations do I have here? So here's why I wanted to lead off with this note. Let's do a mini Theology Thursday on lying. Is the commandment not to lie, or is the commandment not to bear false witness?
Bear false witness.
It's to bear, similar to, is the commandment not to murder,
right?
Or is the commandment not to kill?
It's not to murder.
Not to murder, right? Because the same God that gave the commandment that sometimes you see translated, thou shalt not kill, also said, all right, these 7 tribes in Canaan, you guys are going to be my urban renewal program, and you're basically going to erase them from existence. I don't know of a way to do that non-violently, do you?
Right.
No, I mean, could the Israelites have just shown up in Canaan and said to the Hittites and the Amorites, you guys just canceled. We have the Twitter mob here. Your civilizations are too unenlightened, too pagan, too far gone, and we're just canceling you. Would that have worked? No. No. So how did they enact cancellations at that time in history?
Blood.
Yeah, much of it, right?
Yeah.
And same guy who said don't kill allegedly also told them to do that, right?
Yes.
Which means that the translation that's often associated with that is not the actual meaning.
Correct.
Means undeserved, premeditated murder is what it means. So, Corrie ten Boom. Nazis knock on her door. Hey, where are the Jews at? Well, the commandment says not to lie. They're here in our hiding place. Let me show you the way there. Is that the answer she should have given?
No.
And if she had given that, how many books and movies would have been done about the life of Corrie ten Boom, do you think?
Well, I hope either 0 or just as many calling her a fiend.
Right, unless she was going to star in the sequel to Triumph of the Will, probably not many, right? Awesome or not awesome, Corrie ten Boom telling the Nazis honestly where she was hiding the Jews at. Awesome or not awesome? Aaron, go.
Awesome.
Not awesome, right?
Second.
Okay, so, and then she shows up in eternity and says, God's like, why did you do that? She's like, well, you told me not to lie. Would that have been the proper hermeneutical application of this moment?
It would not.
All right, well, Steve, what about, do you have a biblical example, Mr. Sola Scriptura? Yeah. So Rahab's is a harlot. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Or a prostitute, woman of the night.
It means anything goes when it comes to hoes. That's what it means, okay? That's what she does, all right? She's a lady of the evening, okay? They come to her and say, I think it's Joshua and Caleb, right? Okay, hey, where are those 2 Semites, those 2 Israelites, Joshua and Caleb? We chased them here, right? Into your dwelling. Where might they be? Did she tell the truth? No, she lied, right? Didn't she lie to the locals about where the Israelite spies were?
She told them a story.
She did, yeah. What happened to her, ultimately? What happened to her? Ultimately, she's rewarded by being put into the line of genealogy of the Messiah. That's how she was rewarded. She was actually welcomed into the fellowship. She's welcomed into the covenant. Huh. So, does this mean that it's just okay to lie all the time? To be deceptive all the time?
Of course not.
Does it mean, so, it's more about bearing, what does it mean to bear false witness? What does that mean? What do you guys think it means?
I actually think you wrote about this without writing about it in that book up there. You are committing the flawed assumption that many people of the right of Republican political
Which book did you
persuasion.
point at, by the way?
I'm sorry, Rules for
Rules for
Patriots,
Patriots,
actually.
okay,
Rules
yeah.
for Patriots, excuse me. That no matter what question some ridiculous journal asks them, you accept the premise. If the premise itself is bearing false witness, which it always does almost when it comes to reporters, you absolutely shouldn't accept it. The same is true of the question you're asking here about vaccination. The entire premise of such an interrogation is flawed. You don't have to play that game, period.
So Jesus is brought before the Sanhedrin. He is asked straight up, are you the Messiah? Does he answer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Later, he is brought before Herod, who is actually the ruling figure of Judea at this time. Okay, so he is brought into the palace. I mean, Pilate is the prefect. Basically, that's a nice name for babysitter. All right, so he's there. He's Rome's proxy there to babysit things and make sure they move along ultimately at a speed and in the direction that Rome would prefer. But the actual ruler, all right, the actual ruler of the people, the one who carried out the laws, was Herod. When Pilate goes to when Christ goes to Herod's castle, and he's not asked directly, are you the Messiah, but is he not asked to perform the acts of a miracle worker, of the Messiah? What does Christ do then? Nothing. He offers him nothing. He offers
what
him.
you got from me,
Yeah,
because
yes, he gives him nothing. He's not worthy. He's not worthy of a display. This is a clown show. It's a freak show. This is the Spirit of the Ages HQ. This is where the Spirit of the Age hangs out and rolls, right? Okay, so you have nothing coming to you, and you'll like it. You get nothing from me.
It's one of the most uncomfortable scenes in Passions of the Christ. That's not actual violence.
But when God's covenantal people are debating within themselves, is this the Messiah to come? And the recognized leader of those covenantal people at that moment in history directly poses the question. That is when he then testifies, correct?
Correct.
But when before the Spirit of the Age, and he's asked to basically qualify yourself for us, justify yourself to us,
I owe you
show
nothing.
us your papers.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what they're saying. Show us the deeds of a Messiah. Show us your papers. He gives them jack freaking squat. Nothing. Corrie ten Boom deceives the Nazis. Rahab deceives the uncircumcised people, the uncircumcised Canaanites. There's a trend here. Are you spotting it? There's even another biblical example. So I got something wrong on Theology Thursday a couple of weeks ago. I needed to correct, and I just totally forgot. The spirit of what I said was accurate, but I made the point that the kinsman redeemer law was around during the time of the 12 sons of Jacob, including Judah. And him being he was essentially coerced into sleeping with his widowed daughter-in-law, who was posing as a prostitute. Remember, we had this conversation. I made a major boo-boo. Thank you to the few of you that pointed it out. I need to correct. The kinsman redeemer law doesn't come yet for like centuries yet. All right, that's not that. But the fact that, so I was wrong about that. And that's a silly mistake by me. But you see the spirit of God's heart in this matter in the way she is not held into account, but he is. So this is sort of a proto-version of what the kinsman redeemer law would specifically codify into the law later, but it was not yet codified into the law at that time, and I made a mistake. So let's go to the time, and so that's my bad. Let's go to the time, though, when the kinsman redeemer is fully codified into the law. This is in the book of Ruth.
Clear.
So Ruth is a widow, all right? And she is a Moabitess. For those of you that don't know, the Moabites were descendants of, I'm trying to remember, it was Lot, right? Aaron, is that right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and Lot's descendants come from after Sodom and Gomorrah are smited, right? God says to not look back. Lot's wife is turned into a pillar of salt, right? Later on, Lot's now of age daughters are concerned that they will be without husbands and descendants. Now, why are they concerned about this? Let's go back to the story I didn't quite get right that I just mentioned a moment ago, all right? Why was Judah's widowed daughter-in-law so concerned enough about her standing that she offered herself up as a prostitute in disguise to her father-in-law? Why? Because it's what we discussed at that time. A woman that the women did not have agency that they have today. A woman without standing with a husband or things of that nature. A lot of things could happen to you in the ancient world, and almost all of them were bad. Okay, so Lot's daughters are concerned. Hey, those were our neighbors. Where are we gonna get our husbands from? We don't know what's going on here. So they get the old man drunk one night, and he impregnates them, and they commit a heinous crime of incest in order to secure themselves some descendants. God punishes this act by banishing the Moabites from fellowship within the covenant. And I believe the ban was for 10 generations. Why is that key? Because I've read a couple of studies on the book of Ruth that calculated that Ruth actually represents the 10th generation, or the generation after that generation. So she could conceivably be redeemed back into the covenant. I don't know, don't quote me on that. I didn't write those commentaries, but I've just read them in the past. All right, so they're leaving Moab. Naomi's like, let's go back to my native country where, they have things like kinsman redeemer laws, and they're taught to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so there might be a hope and a future for us. Let's go back there. She brings with her her daughter-in-law, who's a Moabitess. Okay? But this Moabitess also has land and everything else attached to her. So she has agency, she has standing. Or maybe it's Naomi that does, I can't remember. And then Ruth does through her. Anyway,
Good to go.
Ruth eventually encounters an older man of standing named Boaz. He takes a liking to her, if you know, in the old-fashioned way. He wants to marry her. Here's the problem. He is not in the line of succession with the kinsman redeemer law. And so somebody else actually has rights to marry Ruth if they so want to. And so they go to the city gate, which is basically the town hall of the ancient world where official business and stuff is settled. And Boaz presents a case to Ruth's kinsman redeemer, the one that is legally entitled, first of all, but then also not just obligated, has the honor of taking her adding her as one of his wives under their version of a social welfare system or a social safety net system. This kinsman redeemer I believe is unaware of this, of Ruth and her situation until they have this conversation. And Boaz says to him, now here's what he says. All right, I'm this old dude, and I kind of missed my window, and I've got this young hottie who because I'm a man of standing, takes a liking to me, and she's a Moabitess, and but to get her, I got to take on the Moabite stigma, and she comes with a mother-in-law on top of that. Okay, he's telling him nothing that's directly a lie, right? But he has certainly framed this, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, from a certain point of view. There is an amount of shrewdness here, okay, that is being utilized. And why? Because Boaz loves her. The kinsman redeemer does not. He's just looking to add. And you can tell that by his reaction. He doesn't ask for more clarification. He says, well, bring her, I want to meet her myself. He doesn't read the book of Ruth, because most of you have if you've ever been married, because it's quoted most marriages than just about anything else other than Paul's definition of love in Corinthians. He doesn't. He says, "Well, you know what? Let me meet her. Maybe the mother-in-law is not that bad. You know, I really want to fulfill the spirit of my Mosaic law obligation here." Does he do any of that? Nope. Doesn't do any of that. So you kind of get a view of the kinsman redeemer dude's real motivations here, right? This is just an investment to him. She's chattel. There's no higher value that he has to her other than what she can do for him. Boaz is into what he wants to do for her. See the difference? He wants to love, cherish, all that stuff. Okay? He wants to share a life with her. The other guy, the kinsman redeemer standing in the way, he's just looking to add to her portfolio. So Boaz presents him a portfolio case that on its face is a pretty dour case that no man in his right mind, if he has options, is going to take. And now he's under the weight of the Mosaic law, doesn't have to feel like he's within sin because another man has come forward to say, I will take your place. I'll take that obligation from you. So he pours one out, man, and suddenly Ruth and Boaz go on and live a long, happy life and make babies together. And Boaz does some form of a shrewd dodge to make this happen, right? How are they rewarded for this? Their child also shows up in the genealogy of the Messiah. Now we need to, I think, be very circumspect in how we apply this. This is not a blanket. This is not a blanket get out of jail free card, lie, deceive, do whatever you want. Our enemy is a deceiver. What it is it's a call to shrewdity, to be shrewd. Wise as serpents, innocent as doves. So remember, we took our kids to Costco and Walmart, last pay period, first time that the mask came on, right? And they're right in that new cut line of kids that they're vaccinating now, but they had just begun that effort when we went that first time. So they had all been exposed to somebody in their family or at school. In fact, Noah had to be contact traced twice this school year. They'd all been exposed to somebody in their family or at their school who had COVID-19. So I took them aside before we walked in, and if anybody asks you, if you're vaccinated, I want you to say exactly these words. Say exactly these words. I have immunity. And don't say anything else. Give them that exact answer. That answer. Give them that. That could be a reference to your immune system. That could be a reference to the fact that you were around someone and people in school and in your family who had it. Could be a reference to a lot of things. Could be perceived to be a reference to a vaccination immunity, right? Mm-hmm. But just look at them, nod your head nicely and smile and say, I have immunity. And then walk away. Don't say anything else. Don't get into a conversation. Just answer only the question that's asked and walk away. I think we're going to need to figure out. Now, there are moments. All right, when the Antichrist wheels you guys all out on camera, and it'll probably be on CNN, and says, as the guillotine blades and the gallows are hovering over your heads, do you believe in Jesus? That is not the moment, okay, for, how do I wiggle myself out of this? No, right? Jesus makes it pretty clear. The one thing we cannot do when it comes to shrewdness is what? We can't do what? We cannot deny him in any way, shape, or form.
Always accept the premise of that question.
Yes. We do not deny him, period. All right, so when Nikolai rolls you all out for the gallows, and again, it'll probably be on CNN, and put your head in the stockade, and you're looking up, you're like, that's a shiny blade, and it's coming down here quick. And they ask you, and old Nikolai says, or maybe it'll be Leon Fortunato, which is probably what I still do. And he looks at you and says, hey, what are you that Jesus guy? That ain't the moment for, what would Boaz say right now? That is the moment you are to say, yes. Okay? There are, again, moments when it is very clear we take the full consequence of the truth, because the consequence of denying it is a lot steeper, right? Who's Lord? Who's Lord? Who's Lord in my scenario? Brian Stelter, Leon Fortunato, Nikolai? Or is Jesus Lord, right? Who's worse to offend? Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Next 10 seconds of the last 10 seconds of your life, gonna suck. Okay, is that true?
I think so.
That they're gonna suck. What about what happens after those last 10 seconds? What do you think those might be like? Worse or better?
Well, it's one or the other.
It's one or the other. It probably ain't better. Awesome or not awesome? What do you think? Awesome or not awesome? I'm thinking after the blade comes down, not awesome. Probably and for evs, brah. For evs. Short of that, though, I do believe the scriptures teach there's a lot of room for shrewdness. When evil wants to use you as a proxy for evil. See, that's this train of thought here. That's what brings all of this together. The Nazis wanted Corrie ten Boom to tell them the truth so that they could commit acts of evil through her. Well, Steve, why don't I then lie to Nikolai so that he doesn't get to use me to execute me? Because you're at that moment to testify to the world who your Lord is. Your willingness to suffer for him. That's the difference. In this case, in Corrie ten Boom's case, they are asking her. The Stasi are directly saying, we are going to use you as a proxy to make other people suffer. That's the common theme in all of these examples of murkiness and shrewdness and strategizing in your messaging. I've cited both in history and also in the scriptures. The Canaanites come to Rahab and say, we're going to use you as the vehicle that we can then stamp out God's people. And she says, no, I'm not going to be a part of that. And tells them a story instead. That's the thing. Are you being... Herod is not interested in any form of the greater Jewish argument happening over Yeshua of Nazareth. First of all, he lives with his brother's wife. He refused to repent of that sin and executed the individual who called and rebuked him for it, who happens to be Jesus' cousin. This is not anything other than, I'm king, give me a show. And Jesus offers him nothing. When they come to us and say, we want to use you directly as a vehicle to make other people suffer for things they haven't done and don't deserve, I'm going to suggest that throughout both the scriptures and history, God's people are not only called, but then rewarded when they don't participate, even to the point of not being completely honest. And I think this is an area we better figure out how to calculate and work our way around, because there's going to be more of the kinds of dilemmas like the one that Daniel just emailed us about. So, I'm not specifically answering Daniel's question. We used to say on our show a lot, we're not here to win an argument, but start one. I think we at least need to ask. So for now, I'm going to say this. We need to entertain the idea that them forcing these experimental substances into our bodies, particularly when it comes to our children, we need to at least entertain hermeneutically the concept that it may rise to the occasion of Boazing these people, Rahabing these people, Corrie ten Booning these people. And maybe it doesn't. But I'm going to offer up today on this program, and this is why I made this email first, that we at least need to consider that it might. And if this moment doesn't, then we at least need to consider then we will soon come to one that does. And we better be prepared. And you better understand when you're dealing with the spirit of the age, it is not dealing with you earnestly. So adjust your tactics accordingly. And I want to leave it there. I don't want to give a definitive answer one way or the other. I wanted to just introduce this notion today. That we at least should be pontificating this, contemplating it, strategizing it, Is this a moment that we have come to that we need to think of deploying this rarely used, but when it was in its proper context, clearly rewarded tactic that we have seen both in Revelation and in history? And if this moment isn't it, then the fact that we're even discussing, do I have to give my child an untested experimental substance to be a guinea pig to people that take mice scalps or human scalps and mate them with mice? If this ain't it, then we better at least consider we're a step or two away from the moment that probably is. And I'm just going to leave this there for now. Put a bookmark in that conversation. We may have to pick it up at a later date, given the direction we are heading as a people. So we've been warning you about home title theft for a long time here on the show. That's why we've also been encouraging you to check out Home Title Lock. And you never know when one of those big data breaches is going to happen that exposes the information that cyber thieves could use to claim to be you and go online where your home's title is kept, use that information to log on as you, and then forge your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you sold your home to them, sticking you with all the payments, the eviction, foreclosure, while they enjoy all your equity. You never know when there's going to be a data breach that makes that possible. Well, one just happened to Facebook. 500 million accounts exposed to cyber thieves with that personal information. That's why now is a great time to get Home Title Lock. In fact, we're offering 30 free days of protection just to make sure you're covered and your most important investment and asset, your home, is covered as well during this high-risk breach if you use the promo code RADIO when you go to HomeTitleLock.com. Again, use the promo code RADIO when you go to HomeTitleLock.com. Let's get to some more Feedback Friday. Thomas says, I was hoping to get some direction from you on addressing COVID tyranny at a public university. My little sister is beginning the nursing program at a public university in a red state. They have not yet required the vaccine. However, if you cannot provide proof of vaccination, your name is boxed in yellow on your name badge. Where have we seen tactics like this before? They then distribute a gold star and scarlet letter for you to wear in your scrubs. All right, we're joking about that part. Him and I are kidding. Thomas who wrote the note. But it's like totally believable right now, isn't it? Given where this is heading? Yeah. They actually require both an N95 and face shield.
This is the perfect letter to read.
What about saran wrap?
The perfect letter to read after what you just talked about last half hour.
I know, it's almost like maybe I put them in that order together. Yeah. They are attempting to shame the at-risk students who are not really at risk into getting the jab. These requirements are not consistent with the university's requirements or those of the hospitals they visit. I expect my little sister will be the only one to not bow the knee. She's prepared to wear the shame and their useless garb. She's also interested in paving the way to freedom for some of the other students. Do you have any thoughts? Well, Todd, I want to definitely get your thoughts on this because your family is looking at this potentially in this coming fall. I'm going to let Todd give you a practical answer of how they're going through this conversation in their own family. Let me give you, though, a meta answer. In the end, they will continue to inflict tyranny upon you until the pain of doing so is too high. So you need to think of, what could we do to them? How could we shame them? How could we oppose them? Whom could we get to join with us so that the collective cost of imposing this is so high until you show them that the cost of imposing the tyranny upon you is too high? The tyranny will continue. Period. That is the lesson of history. Todd, what are your thoughts?
Well, this is something in the next few months I may have multiple stories about because I'll be figuring this out in real time. The closest thing to dealing with that is that currently, with my oldest, is that Notre Dame, the flagship Catholic institution of these United States, and while we do hear many ridiculous stories come out of Notre Dame as it applies to progressivism or wokeness. It is not. It is large enough that it is not holistically woke in the same way that the Catholic Church in no way isn't. There's a lot of orthodoxy, the majority of which should mean that there's none of the wokeness there, but it is what it is. Yet they are going to have a mandatory student, unless it's been reversed, and I haven't heard that, a mandatory vaccination policy, which means that institution's recruitment of my daughter, which did start, is a no-go zone for our family. Those are choices that have to be made. I mean, it would be pretty cool. I know Steve loves those, the green, emerald green Notre Dame jerseys.
I do think they're the prettiest football jersey of all time.
But all of it, the gold, the deep blue. I would love to see my daughter in them, but it's not impossible. It's not possible under these circumstances. As it relates to up until now, you know, you have to pick.
They figured out we're here.
I'm in a school district that I've told you before that I picked for many reasons, but it's also because one of these. There was we have vaccine exemptions, and there's never ever been an issue with the schools I've picked. If there are issues and you didn't know they were going to be an issue, or you knew they could be, or how likely to be, and you chose that kind of school district anyways because of the other bells and whistles you wanted, that's a you problem. This is why, again, I can't stress enough what Steve said last half hour as it applies to this. Be wise as serpent, innocent as doves. Understand the lay of the land and the premises of all of the questions. And if you do, you still have choices, and you still have agency, and there's a lot of fights you can win. I'm telling you this because I have won them myself. But you can't go in like some sort of rube.
Okay, if you guys, this is from Spencer. If you could go back in American history with the closest challengers of both parties and change the outcome, which election would it be, and who would it be? This one's an easy one for me, because it's the only presidential campaign I have actually gone to work for. And that would be, I'd go back to 2016.
Way to get it done.
And I'd have Cruz, who was the closest challenger in the Republican Party at that time.
We have to manage without it.
I'd have him win the nomination. And I do believe he would have defeated Hillary. Because I'm reminded of something I always get this paraphrase wrong. But Chesterton was once challenged on, hasn't Christianity been tried and shown to fail? And he responded to that challenge by saying